Hello there. In this video, I'm going to show you how to embellish a melody using the same techniques that the great jazz improvisers also use. The first technique that we're going to cover is use of passing notes. Now, a passing note is any note that falls between any two melody notes. So suppose we've got a simple melody that goes from C to E. Assuming that I'm in the key of C major, between C and E, there's a note here, D, that I can pass through. So instead of simply playing 1, 2, 3, 4, what I could actually do is to go 1, 2, 3, 4. So on beat 3, I passed through that D. So I went 1, 2, here's my passing note. Okay. So once you add a passing note, one of the things that happens is your rhythm might change. And the beauty of embellishing a melody is that you've got the freedom to play any rhythm of your choice. So while I played that example like that, I could have gone 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so I played my D slightly earlier this time. I could have played it later. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so you can throw in your passing note wherever you'd like. In this case, that was a single passing note. But I could have added another one if I wanted to. So I could have added a chromatic passing note if I wanted to. So by chromatic, I simply mean a note that's not in the scale. So what would happen if I add maybe E flat? So what if I said 1, 2, 3, 4? That's a nice way to embellish. So I would probably consider that a double passing note. Okay, or two passing notes. You can call it whatever you like. What if I added, instead of E flat, D flat? That means I could have gone all these. In fact, both options work. If I take it to the extreme, I could have added 3. So there's a lot of things that you could do. So basically, if I'm in the key of C, suppose my melody note this time was C going to F, that means I could add these two notes if I wanted to. 1, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so the D and the E were my passing notes. The D and the E. Okay. If I wanted to go from C to G, that means I've got more options. I could have gone. Suppose the song is something like Twinkle, Twinkle, Little Star, right? That's one little piece that uses C and G. What if I play? One thing that would be an interesting exercise is to take Mozart's version of Twinkle. I can't remember what it's called, but just see how he embellishes the melody, because he does that in so many different ways. So there's quite a number of variations that he wrote based on this melody. That'll be interesting to check out. But for now, we're just going to focus on passing notes. So I'm now going to use these in a real jazz standard, and I'm going to pick, let's do something like All the Things You Are. Okay. When you're embellishing, one thing that's probably a good idea is to find a song with a melody that's simple. Okay, so like the melody for All the Things You Are is basically 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3. Okay, so I think that's a lot simpler to embellish than to try and go. Okay, I don't really want to start embellishing that, because that already sounds embellished to my ears. Okay, so this is much simpler. 1, 2, 3, 4. By the way, here I want to be thinking in the key of A flat. Right? So those are really the scale tones that I'm using. Okay, so when I play my melody between the A flat and the D flat, I could pass through B flat and C, and that takes me to my destination, which is D flat. So see there, I've changed the rhythm a little bit. Let me try the rhythm differently this time. 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3. Okay, so I was adding 2 passing notes. So I'm just going to continue with that idea and just practice it in general over the tune. I don't have to add passing notes everywhere, but when I'm practicing, it's actually a good idea to try and slot them in as much as I possibly can, right? Even if it doesn't sound musical right now. I'm not performing, I'm not playing, I'm practicing. So I'm practicing this one idea of melodic embellishment. So I'm really going to milk that idea. Right, so 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4, 1, 2, 2, 3, 4, 2, 3, 4. Okay, so in that example, I tried as much as possible to only play passing notes, but also respecting the melody and playing mostly the melody and just embellishing notes every now and then. Let's try this. So this song used more, bigger intervals such as fourths. So a lot of the time I was really forced to play more than one passing note. I wonder what would happen if I take a song like Autumn Leaves, where maybe the intervals are smaller. So I'm going to play Autumn Leaves in B flat. So I'm going to go. Well, there's a fourth, so that means I could have gone 2, 3, 4. You see, from here, I really want to go here. If I'm ambitious, I might add all these passing. So that takes me to F. So I added all the notes in the scale. 3, 4. No. 2, 3, 3, 4, 1, 2, 3, 2, 3, 4. Chromatic passing note. I hope you saw that. Okay, that's a chromatic passing note. I added all those passing notes instead of just I decided. And I hope you're also noticing that sometimes I'm playing wrong notes and making mistakes, and because I'm practicing an idea, that's absolutely fine. The most important thing is making progress in that one topic. So the question, or the real question, should be, am I implementing this idea of passing notes more than I did at the start of my practice session? And if the answer is yes, then that's good. Am I making mistakes? Yes. And is that also fine? Yes, that's fine, because that's part of the learning process. When you make a mistake, you are going to realize sometimes, hang on, I actually like the sound of that. Or you'll be like, ooh, okay, I need to really master the chord progression, or I need to really know my scale. but at least the mistakes lead you in a direction that takes you closer to your goal. Okay, so don't be afraid of the mistakes. They're all part of the practice process. And as long as we take care of them in practice, in performing, we'll play clean. Okay. In fact, sometimes we'll make mistakes. They're part of music, so don't stress too much. That's what I would say. Okay, so anyway, that was an example of me playing Autumn Leaves using passing notes. So it's important for me to mention that there are various melodic embellishment techniques that can be used. I covered these more in detail in my coaching, particularly level 2. And I've got one starting very shortly. So, I mean, if you're interested in that, please feel free to send me an email. We organize a Zoom call, or check out the link in the description, and you can register for the coaching. So, passing notes is one technique, but I'm in a generous mood, so I think let's explore a second technique. I like to think of these as neighbor tones. So every note has got a neighbor. So if I take the note C, C has got a neighbor above it, which is D, but it's also got a neighbor below it, which is B. So upper neighbor, lower neighbor. What I actually like to do is to play whatever my target note is. So if it's C, I like to play C, then go to its upper neighbor and come back. Or I'll play C, go to its lower neighbor and come back to it. That's always a nice way to embellish a melody. Or two songs have come to mind, like right now, actually from classical music, two melodies where the composers actually use this idea of just neighbor tones. I would like to imagine that Mozart was thinking of an A at some point, and he said, you know what, I'm going to play the note above A, come back to A, and then I'm going to play the note below A and come back to A. So he said, that's an interesting idea. And then he said, you know what, actually I'm going to take this around the keys and see what I can come up with. What if I embellish the C now? What if I embellish the E? Sorry? Okay, so that is simply him embellishing the A, the C, and the E. And these are the chord tones on an A minor chord. So just embellish the A, and then embellish the C, embellished the E. And what's also interesting to me about Mozart, who to me is one of the greatest jazz musicians, is that he's also using not just the notes in the scale, but he sometimes uses chromatic neighbors. Like here, that note is not necessarily in the scale, in the A minor scale. Right. So I quite like this idea. And so forth, right? So that's an example of using upper neighbors and lower neighbors. So we can take a note, play its upper neighbor, come back to it, okay? Or we can play a note, lower neighbor, come back to it, right? So if I'm embellishing the D, I might go, right? If I'm embellishing E, I might go E. In fact, I think I heard Horace Silver play this. I think it's Nicker's Dream that starts. It doesn't start like that, but at some point he does that to the melody, right? But anyway, back to jazz. Well, I'd say two classical songs. The other one that came to mind was a Chopin Nocturne. I think it's an E flat. The one that goes something like this. I hope the notes are right here. But here, he decides to embellish the C. So C, right? Upper neighbor, chromatic neighbor, lower neighbor. So here. And so forth, right? But I thought that's a fantastic example of using upper neighbors and lower neighbors. So what if we took this and tried to apply it to all the things you are? What could we come up with? So our first note was A flat, right? What if I said, that's my lower neighbor, right? Upper neighbor this time. Lower neighbor. Upper neighbor. There's my lower neighbor. Lower neighbor again. Upper neighbor. 2, 3, 4. Then on and on it should go, right? So I was just having fun with upper neighbors and lower neighbors. So feel free to experiment with that idea. If I take it to our good old autumn leaves, let's see what could happen. So you can apply this to any of the notes. So you can apply it at the beginning if you want. So instead of just see, I embellished my G by playing its upper neighbor, coming back to it, lower neighbor. Then here's an upper neighbor, lower neighbor this time. Oh, I added passing notes there. Yes, yeah. Here's an upper neighbor, more upper neighbors, upper neighbor. Lower neighbor, right? And so forth, right? So that's me just experimenting using one technique. A cool thing happened there. At some point I played passing notes. I was actually trying to think back to what happened just now. It was actually passing notes. So the beauty of practicing one thing, hopefully you saw there, because just a few minutes ago I had practiced passing notes, and what happened is they showed up when I was now practicing my neighbor tones. So stay with one idea for a long period of time, and then before you know it, it's just going to appear naturally without you thinking about it in your playing. When ideas pop up like that, I don't block them, so I actually embrace them, because that's really why I practice them, right? I practice them so that they could show up in my playing. So just a reminder that I said these are only 2 techniques. with which to embellish a melody. Passing notes, neighbor tones. There's a whole lot more, and like I said, I cover those in my coaching, and I'm actually going to incorporate them in a new course that I'm busy creating, but more info on that a little bit later in a few more months. The coaching's available in a few weeks, so please do check that out. The course will be available later in the year, so you could wait for that, or if you're still new, what I would recommend is that you check out the Jazz Piano Fundamentals course, because it's going to give you the foundation that you need, because you can't really do these things unless you've got the foundation. Okay, so these things that I'm doing, I would consider things at the second level. At the first level, you want to have covered your chords in multiple keys. You know, you want to have covered chord progressions. So you want to be comfortable playing chords and things like the shells that I was playing in most of my examples. You just want to be familiar with harmonic formula, and you want to know songs, so that when you take this one topic, you can practice it over multiple songs. Like in my case, I practiced in All the Things You Are. I practiced in Autumn Leaves. I could decide right now, like I am now, what would happen if I practice my ideas in The Days of Wine and Roses. Actually, let's do this little test. You tell me what I'm doing to the melody as I'm playing. So this first one, I hope you already said, this guy simply played an upper neighbor and then a lower neighbor and then came back to the target. I hope you saw a lower neighbor there. You see, that's an upper neighbor. Lower neighbor, right? Lower neighbor. Here's some passing notes. Upper neighbor. Passing notes. Chromatic passing notes. Okay, so you want to know a wide range of songs, and that we cover in Jazz Piano Fundamentals, and then you can begin to apply these topics one by one. So feel free to try these two ideas. Remember, it's passing notes. They can be either diatonic or they can be chromatic, and you can also practice embellishing the melody using just upper neighbors, lower neighbors, and you can actually create some magic if you apply these two ideas. So have fun with that. I'm sure you're subscribed to the channel already, but if not, please be sure to hit that subscribe button to help this channel to grow. And if you've got any questions, put them in the comments there. Let's talk about music. Let's talk about how we can all get better together. And importantly, if you're interested in really taking your playing from where you are to where you want to go, check out Jazz Piano Fundamentals or my level 2 coaching if you've already done Jazz Piano Fundamentals course, or if you've done any coaching with me before. Right, so please do check those things out and practice, and I hope to see you in the next video.